Hi there, and welcome to the Anita Chat podcast. I'm your host, Anita Rombo, and this is the podcast for growth-oriented women to have authentic, real talk. Nothing is off the table here, but as an intuitive self-relationship coach, you'll find the content gravitates towards mindset, intentional action, spirituality, and all things wellness. So if you're ready to learn, laugh, show up, and glow up to be the best version of yourself, grab your favorite bevy, settle in, and we've got lots to chat about. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Anita Chat. I am so glad to be here with you today. And today on the chat, I am so excited to welcome a special guest, a friend and fellow coach, Trish Rapp. Trish is the founder of Simplify With You. Trish, why don't you just take it away and tell us more about you? And welcome, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. As you said, I am a life coach. I'm also a professional home organizer. And what I love to do is to help women figure out what is the chaos in their life that they need to remove so they can find time and up-level their life.
That sounds like a fabulous mission. And you had me at organization. I love all things organization. But maybe we could talk about that another day, because I think what I want to chat with you about today is, I don't know, just how are things going? Are you as excited about this time of year as I am? I love the holidays.
Right? Yeah, me too. And what's crazy is, okay, so we're recording this, it's December 1st. So I just keep thinking there's only 1 month left of this
I
year.
know.
Like, how are we gonna get this year off with like a bang? Like, end it with a bang, I should say.
Absolutely. It's
Aw.
all about like kind of settling in for all the parties and the celebration and thinking about this amazing year that we've had, or maybe not so amazing, but just thinking about the year that we've had and then the year that we want to create ahead of us. Today, our elf on the shelf. Do you guys do elf on the shelf in your house?
We used to. We definitely did. Yeah.
So we're in the season of Elf on the Shelves. I'm not sure how much longer for my eldest, who's 9, but they came today and it was so exciting. And I'm just like, yes, I'm so in this. I'm so feeling this vibe.
That's so great. And I love that
Tell-
innocence part of the holidays, that the
yeah.
holidays bring, even though as women, I feel like things can be so chaotic and we're taking care of everybody else, so we're not taking care of ourselves. I love the traditions and just seeing like how the children react to stuff like that.
I know it's just pure magic, but you're absolutely right. It does sometimes put a little bit extra pressure on us. And so it's just so important to kind of rein it in when you can, right? Like even last night, just, oh my God, I got to do all this stuff. And I'm whispering because the school called and then I had to pick up my daughter because she's not feeling well. So she's taking a nap in the next room while we're recording this. So, but it's just small life, right? Like it's just, I'm at an extracurricular with them planning how this grand entrance is going to unveil today, this morning. And then of course, rushing off at a moment's notice to pick up a sick kid. So all in the day, on the day of life of a
Yeah.
mom, right?
Yes, yes. And everybody knows that happens. It happens.
So we were just talking about the promise of like reflecting back in of the year and like looking forward to the new one. When it comes to New Year's, do you do anything big to celebrate, or how do you ring in a new year?
We have different traditions that we've done along the years, but one thing that I love to do is to come up with maybe not necessarily New Year's resolutions, which is totally fine to do, but I like to come up with one word that I'm going to
Mm.
use to carry throughout the year. What do you do?
Something similar. I actually use that one word. I have 3 words actually that carried me through a decade. So I'm going to be 45 next week. So on my 40th birthday, that was a huge deal for me. And I came across, I thought 3 words, and I have to embody those 3 words for the entire decade. And so every birthday, I do a bit of a reflection back on that word and how well I've done and an opportunity. So almost like kind of, I think what you're talking about, but I really want to hear your story or your tradition. And then I do a different reflective exercise when it comes to the end of the year. But I mean, having a birthday in early December and then reflecting on the year 3 weeks later, like it's all pretty much very similar, right?
Yeah, totally. I love how you use your birthday. That is really a good idea. Mine was last week, so
Oh, happy birthday.
thank you. I know we're
You're
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius too.
We
Oh
are,
my
yes.
God. That explains so much. That
It
explains
explains
so
so
much.
much. Absolutely. So what I like to do at the end of the year, and again, you like can be you, like for your listeners or anything, what makes sense to you. If it's birthday, that's great. If it's halfway through the year, that's great. If it's monthly, if it's weekly, whatever it may be, just you do you, is what I always like to say. What I like to do is I like to reflect, like what went well, what didn't go well. When I think of the year, because I typically do this at the end of the year, how does it make me feel when I think of how this year went, this 2022 year went? How does that make me feel? And then thinking about next year, what do I want to do? What do I want to take forward into the next year? What do I want to leave behind in 2022? So, your intentions, that's where you start to think of your hopes and your dreams for the next year of 2023. So like I said, you could do this weekly, you could do it monthly, you can do it yearly. So like I'd love to demonstrate if that's okay.
Yeah, I would love that too.
Awesome. Okay. So the first thing, and you want to grab like a journal, a notebook, or you can even type this out on your computer. It doesn't have to be like anything fancy, but if you want to make it fancy, again, you do you. So grab your journal, grab your favorite pen, find a comfy spot, and do this. Write down 5 specific successes or events that you would like to celebrate. Now, these can be anything related to whether it's personal or whether it's a career, whether it's learning, health. Like, what were 5 things during the year that were huge, that were good? And I guess I shouldn't say huge because it could be small to some people, but to you, it was an impact. And so ask yourself, what have I done this past year that I am especially proud of?
Love
So
that.
write down 5,
Okay.
and then then the next thing is to write down 2 specific difficult moments that you had, and maybe it was a moment or an event that you went through this year. And to help yourself when you're, like, get stuck, you can ask yourself, "What's the most difficult thing that I've been through, and why did I feel that way?"
Hmm.
Yeah. And then the third thing to do is what, if anything, do I want to take forward into the next year, into 2023? So, for example, do you want to work on something specifically? Do you want to improve something? Is there something that needs to be fixed or do you want to change? Do you want to shift? Is it in a personal life? Is it your career? There's like so many options here, which can be overwhelming. So, take some time with this for sure.
I love it. I love it. It's interesting how our practices are similar yet different. And I mean, it just speaks to you, do you, right? Like sometimes I love, love, love. I don't know about you, but, and I don't know what like happens in your home, but the time, like I would say after Boxing Day, between Boxing Day and New Year's, there's like that lull where there's a little bit more of quiet time there. And I really love carving out time during that little block to do this reflective piece. But sometimes, like some years, every year is different. Sometimes it's like one afternoon and it's like I've got my favorite tea, I've got my favorite music, I've got the fireplace on. And other times it's like literally stolen moments. It's like an hour here, an hour there, but the reflection piece happens no matter what. Like that's a non-negotiable. It's just a question of how you fit it in. Do you do one big chunk, or how much time? But I think that we do have like some similar practices. One thing that I love that you also focused on is the difficult thing. Because for me, I ask myself these 2 questions every week, actually. It's a part of my Friday activity as I'm wrapping up my work week. What worked well? What would I do differently?
Yeah.
Those questions really help me celebrate my wins. And also, what do you do differently is just because we're lifelong learners. There's an opportunity to grow, there's lessons to take from things. And especially when it comes to my entrepreneurial journey, I am like just an open book of learning right now, right? I'm a sponge.
Sure.
So there's so many things that I'm like, oh yeah, that really didn't work. Or like, yeah, try it this way next time. And so it's just a really handy way even if you can't, like, again, find a lot of time to do a deep reflective journal entry every week, which I love journaling, but if you can't, and there's lots of times where I can't, this at least captures like kind of the highlights and a little bit of the lowlights, which
Hmm.
I'm going to learn from and move on. So it
Yes.
looks like you're also doing that at the end of the year, which is great. So like I do that every week, and then I like do yearly birthday, kind of like how am I holding to my words.
Yeah.
And then the what worked well, what would I do differently comes up again at the end of the year when it comes to those buckets, those big buckets that you mentioned.
Yeah. And you're right. Finding time can be so difficult, especially over the holidays when we're thinking of everything else. Because maybe at night, that's the time when you can wrap the presents and you
Yeah.
don't have
Oh
any
my
other
God.
time. So even if it's like, I don't know, going into your vehicle, which I have definitely done that so many times just to find some peace and quiet, do what you can do. Definitely. That's
And
good.
I would say that like I would say lean into this as your time. Like this is your life that you're reflecting on, right? The life that you've had over the past year and the life that you get to create. Like you get to create it. Like so dream that big dream, but like but be real about it too, about like what is it that you want? Let's get clear. Like once you have that clarity and that vision, that's when you can actually create it. But clarity comes from seeing where you've been and how far you've come and like, again, what worked well and what didn't work well. So don't take this as something to add to your to-do list is what I want to like maybe tell the listeners. Like, I just think, yeah, we're going to do it, but you get to do it. Like you get to like mold and shape and create this beautiful life. You get to actually spend time on thinking about you. Like when else often do we get to do that? Right. Like make this fun. Like I said, music playlist has to be on. I need to be in cozy clothes, my cozy
Definitely.
fleece socks, preferably a fireplace because I like being warm and like nice beverage. You know what I often do sometimes is go to Starbucks because I consider that like a special treat, right? Like for me to like pay so much for like a fancy drink. Not that I can't afford it, but it's really like a treat for me, right? And I put the whipped
Absolutely.
cream and I do all of that. I do all of that. So if I'm like coming home with that in my hand, I'm like, I am, this is my time, right? So just
Yes.
make it special, create a ritual around it, fit it in however you can, but definitely understand that it's an honor to be able to reflect back on you and where you want to be and where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So do you have any kind of fun rituals that you do?
Ooh, for, like, the new year or for
Yeah, like I explained how I like to get into the mood. For reflection, do you get in the mood in any way? And I'm not trying to seduce you, Trish.
Dang it. You are good, you are good. You and I are so much alike, Anita. I am pretty much the same way. I definitely need to be warm and because it is frigid here, I think. But I love the idea of going some places that's different, such
Awesome.
as, like you mentioned, like Starbucks, like going there, nobody's really gonna bother you. I mean, you could sit there and watch people all day, so if that's a distraction, maybe that would not help. But yeah, going someplace that you normally wouldn't, so you won't get distracted. But if you
That's
have
a
the
great idea.
luxury, of during the day or something when the kids are gone or your spouse is gone, that's great. But typically we don't have that. So getting out
This
of the
is
house.
like
Sorry.
flex your boundaries. This is a good reason to like flex your boundaries and just tell your husband, like, yo, you got to take my kid for an hour or two or whatever. Like, I just need some me time. But you choose how you spend that me time. And maybe that me time, like, you're choosing to spend it reflecting on you. Right. So you don't necessarily have to escape your
Absolutely.
family. They can,
Yes,
you can ask for them to magically
that's
disappear.
very true.
Well, is there anything else that we want to talk about when it comes to reflecting? Is there anything else that's coming to mind?
The one thing I think I wanted to share is that, when we get like a new planner for the year, it's all
Love
blank
it.
inside or like your like calendar that you hang up on the wall, it comes to you blank. Or even like think about your phone. If you get a new phone, I mean, before you turn it on, it's empty. And we get to choose what we put on that calendar. We get to choose what we put on our phones. So when we go into the new year, if you're feeling that this year was really overwhelming, that's where the reflection of, okay, where was it overwhelming? What could I do differently next year? Because when you get your planner, it's empty. You get to fill it. And how are you going to fill it?
That is really great news. I just love planners. I love empty planners. I think I put it on my Christmas wish list. I'm hoping somebody will buy me this. And this is like a year where I've asked for a little bit of a fancier planner. And I'm just like, do I really need this? I don't know. I know nothing about it. I just know that Amy Porterfield loves this planner and I love Amy Porterfield. They're the full focus planners. Yes, it's all on my list. And so I don't know. My husband's like, it's $85, right? I'm like, yeah, no. I mean, I'm like, did I know that? It's like, don't we want to spend $85 on a planner?
Right.
Anyways,
There's
that's
some
like,
good ones out there.
yeah, but the whole point, like to your point, is it's a fresh slate, right? And you get to populate your life, your year with whatever it is that you want. But I would also say that I feel like 80%, there was like some crazy stat as I was preparing for this workshop that I'm hosting next week. 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by mid-February. And I think that that's something to be said, that we start off strong and we can kind of like go for the first 6 weeks. Anyone who's had a health and fitness goal that is related to going to the gym can probably relate, right? Like there's just so many people you can't even get on your piece of equipment. And then you show up in March and there's like nobody there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just super important as well to like take the time and reflect and have your vision and know that you're in control, but check in with that vision. Like don't just think about it. Like you need to continue to come back to yourself until like what's important to you and what you've committed to, whether that be like, your yearly words or your end of year words or a vision board, whatever it is that you have put out into the universe or put out as your intention for the year. It's so important to revisit it. Otherwise, you will put yourself in that situation where you might become that statistic, that one of those 80%. And that's a lot of people. That really surprised me to come across that stat.
That is, yeah. And that unfortunately it happens. And remembering your why. Why did you say you wanted to do that? Keeping your why in mind is important.
And creating habits around the why, right? Integrating it into your life in a way that just makes the most sense, that just gives you the greatest chances of success, right? That you're not going to like create a whole new workflow around one habit. You're going to embed it into something that you're already doing so that it just comes second nature to you. Really try to find ways to make it easy. And I would say start small even if you needed to, right? Like you don't need to create these big sweeping changes. It's those small little things that are going to make that big end game or the end result that you want, the end vision that you want for that next year. I mean, I think we talked some really juicy nuggets here. Like I'm feeling good about this conversation.
Oh, good. Yay.
Is there anything different that you think you would incorporate into your reflective piece and vice versa now that we've shared our little things?
I would need to think about that. I really do love the idea of having it on your birthday as opposed to end of the year because it can be just a little bit crazy. The biggest thing though that I don't see myself changing is that one word. I've been doing it since before our daughter was born, so 2019.
I love that. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
What was your word last year or for this year? Do you mind sharing?
For this year it was thrive. I just got over breast cancer and I lost my job last year. We both had a crappy year last year. So I'm like, this year I'm going to freaking thrive. Thrive.
Yeah, girl. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And so how that you've embodied a thriving Trish?
I have, but I haven't. I feel like the first half of the year, definitely. In the second half, I'm kind of like, ooh. And that can happen with your words. So I wouldn't want anybody to be discouraged of like, should I have that word be my word again next year? And no, you come up with a new one. You did the best you could with the word that you had. And you come up with a new one. And you keep going from there.
I love it. And I think like another important piece of this that you just like triggered for me was, the end result doesn't matter. You define what thriving is to you. It's more the trajectory, right? Like you don't want to necessarily like start thriving and then go down. Like that's something that you want to maybe course correct and unpack a little bit. But it's good to know that you're like moving up, right? And energy flows where attention goes. So if you made that your word, you chose to focus your energy on it, you saw the direct results of that, right? Whether it happened to the extent or whatever, right? Like there's always going to be those ebbs and flows, but you got to go over the overall trend. Are you trending up? Or are you trending down?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
We're trending up, girl. We are trending up.
I love it. I love it. Like for me, the birthday words for the decade are mindfulness, self-care, and service. And service is always one that kind of tripped me up. Like, so for my 40th birthday for service, what we did was we went to, there's a children's hospital where I live, and I love children. And there's like a place where families that are supporting children that are in the hospital from out of town are able to stay. And so it's almost like a hotel, but it's just for those families. So they have like a stocked pantry, they have toiletries. It's magical. They even have like these special toys and like toy rooms and family theaters and special like hidden bookcases that like turn into like this for siblings, because siblings are staying for their sick kids too, right? So anyways, I sponsored a meal where basically I got my favorite people together, favorite girlfriends, and not only did we the food, but we cooked the food and we served the food and we got to eat the food with other people. And it was just so lovely. But I mean, that was like a really big event. Like that was that 40th celebration. I mean, I'm turning 45. Maybe I need to be like thinking something big for this one too. But that lasted a long time. It was like a week long of different things, right? And self-care was going to the spa, which is something that I've continued to do, and all sorts of things. Mindfulness was hosting a private yoga class, again, with all those, my favorite people. And it felt more special to me than my wedding reception because I actually knew everybody in the room, right? Our wedding was 350 people. And I was like, I don't know half of these people. They're from like my husband's side of the family and I'm supposed to know them, but like one day I will, right? And I do now, but yeah. Anyways, my point being, where was I going with this? Yeah. I feel like that was such a like great big to do in terms of service. And sometimes I'm like, am I serving enough? But I think even serving is how you define it, right? And it's like, is talking on a podcast and sharing your insights and your expertise. Serving is serving, being there for somebody when they're going through a difficult time. Like there's so many different definitions of it, right? And
so true.
Show up every day doing something that emulates that word, show up every day doing something that emulates thriving, and you're on the right track.
Exactly. Right? Yes. You so got it.
This talk. I love this talk. I love you. Thank you so much for being on the show. You warm my heart, and you're a Sagittarius. I can't believe that. You learn something new every day. But yeah, I love the fact, I think I'm going to be incorporating some of your rituals for sure into my little reflection piece. I just remembered something else I do. I've done it once. Can I share it?
Of course.
What do you think?
Can't leave them hanging. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I hope I didn't bring that up because I certainly was not trying to. But last year, I tried doing something different. And as part of the end of year routine. And that was like, I write myself letters often as part of my journal entries. They're a letter, either sometimes refer to like, say, Dear Universe, or sometimes it's me, like a future version of me. Anyways, I wrote myself a letter. And that tends to also happen during that reflective period of Christmas to New Year's. And I emailed it to myself and I put the subject line like, do not open until December 31st, 2022.
Oh my goodness.
It wasn't like, okay, spoiler alert. I looked at it. I looked at it once. But it was awesome. Like I needed it when I looked at it. I was just really having a moment and I needed to just remind myself of where I came from. But in that, I just like, it was like verbal diarrhea. Like I just kind of like went, just everything that's happening right now, every single, like nothing was unfiltered. It was just all like just spewing from my heart. And it was really an amazing place to see where I was December 31st, 2021. And I can't wait. Like that was 6 months ago that I kind of like, I mean, you badass. Look at what you did. But I can't wait to, I mean, the kind of memory I have, I do not remember what I wrote in there, but I can't wait to revisit that again. And I think that was a really fun tradition that I like to kind of keep doing just so that you can kind of get a real moment in time snippet of where you were. So
so I'm definitely taking that one forward.
Awesome.
So write myself a letter because, and it's true, and even though, you weren't supposed to open it until the end of the year, but like you said, you needed it then. You needed that.
And I'm also the kind of person that likes to like skip to the end of the chapter of like the book. Like I want, like I like the spoiler alerts. I love spoiler alerts. So like, it was just begging to be opened by me.
Yeah. And I love it when we can just, like you said, word vomit, where we write as if nobody's ever going to read it, because that is when our true authenticness comes through. So
100%. It was a love letter, right? For you, from you, to you, really to be opened up in a year's time, but whatever. You create your own rules, right?
Create your own rules.
You do you.
Yes, yes.
All right. So with that being said, I think we all wrap up the chat. It's so awesome to have you on the show. I can't wait to have you again in the future. I definitely see some, I think you mentioned organization, right? We definitely need to go deep on that because that is a love language for me. So I definitely will be hoping to have you back on the show, Trish. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so great to see you and happy pre-birthday.
Thank you for all the love and support. And if we don't have a chance to chat, Happy New Year and happy reflecting. Happy reflecting, everybody. Bye for now.
All right.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Anita Chat podcast. If you haven't taken a minute to leave a review, I would absolutely love to hear from you. All you need to do is to search for the show, click your star rating, and type in a few words. Also, if there's a specific topic you'd like to see covered in this podcast, if you'd like me to be your coach, or if you want to just chat, feel free to send me an email or shoot me a message through my IG, which you'll find in the show notes. The show notes will also contain any links to the freebies that were referenced in this episode. Until next time, friends, it's been great chatting with you.